Good evening and welcome. It's nice to see so many friendly, smiling faces. And also hello to people on the web. I am coming to you tonight courtesy of my spirit guide, as well as my good friends here who encourage me to talk. I also like to practice what I preach, that the only way to get through a fear is to face it. And each time it gets smaller, because I truly believe on an energetic level, fears are just energy patterns. So whenever I have to deal with one, I remind myself, I myself am not the fear. It's some type of weather disturbance that's here for a while, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. I also could not be speaking to you this evening without the technical support of Daniel Santos. As I told him, I'm the happiest with overhead projectors, which I don't even think some people know what they are anymore. So what you're going to see tonight is actually an updated version of an overhead projector, because that's what Daniel did for me. He took all my overheads and he modernized them. So now you get to see them up here. And the other just caveat, I like to remember who I am. I have spent 32 years in public education in mental health work. So you can see I don't come empty-handed. I'm always going to share, like I would with kindergartners or third graders, helpful books, CDs, because I get excited and I hope you do too. So when you leave tonight, one of these resources may resonate with you, and then you might be able to do some of these practices. So okay. So deep listening to others and to God. When I thought about a topic this evening, I thought about meditation first, because I often talk with people and their reaction to learning how to meditate is not sure, somewhat anxious. And as we learn in Spiritism, we are human beings who have continuous thought. So why would we want to do anything with our thoughts if they are continuous? But as we're learning, it's good to take a break from our thoughts. It's good to be able to renew your thinking. So I thought to myself, I can talk about meditation. I actually started to learn how to meditate when I was, say, 30. I had finished a lot of my foreign travels to countries in Europe and Asia that introduced me to meditation and other spiritual practices that I had not heard of growing up. And I don't mind dating myself because I'm proud of how old I am. This was the first book I encountered, and it was published in 1935. I wasn't born then, but it just shows it predated me, on concentration and meditation. And then in 1975, more of us were aware then, this was How to Meditate. Now, I'm not going to recommend these books to you this evening because I would like you to have the latest and the best from the current thinkers. But if you ever want to go further back in time, these were good references. So I want to really, it's interesting, I'm allaying my own fears by practicing talking, but I want to allay your fears about being able to meditate this evening. So we're going to go into all this in more detail. This is just me kind of giving you the background for why I'm talking. How I started as a meditator 40 years ago was by listening to this cassette tape, which I found at the Edgar Cayce Center in Virginia Beach, Garden of Light. beautiful words. For the first time in my life, I went into this incredible garden, saw these beautiful flowering plants. I had not heard of guided imagery before. And then this music is exceptional. So I used this for a long time. Then I found a few others called Temple of Silence, Blossoming Rose. A lot were coming out in the 70s. Then I moved to music only. For some reason, I settled on Pachelbel's canon. So in the morning, before I'd go to work, Pachelbel's canon played for 20 minutes. Most mornings I got through the whole 20 minutes and found that I had an easier time going to work in the morning. Then one year I was visiting Casadega in Florida. It's another spiritualist center, just like Lilydale. And I was talking to a meditation teacher, and he said to me, I think it's time for you to let go of the music. I wasn't quite sure what he meant, but he said something that Joanna De Angelis has also mentioned, that for some people you can get dependent on the music. It's not that you're not relaxing, because we hear beautiful music here, but he said, my next step in meditation was silence. So you have to be willing to keep growing. And then I found this wonderful CD, Meditation End Chime. And what you do is you pick how long you want to be in silence, and then a gong hits 3 times so you know it's over. Maybe other people can put an alarm on their cell phone. I'm just saying there are many ways to create the structure you need to get further into meditation. It worked. We practiced ahead of time. Okay, so what we have up here is really what was on the flyer, but it helps me remember what I said I was going to teach tonight. What I realized was that meditation correlates, links in very beautifully with active listening. Now, active or reflective listening, it's got 2 names, was my favorite communication skill in the school system, because as we have learned, 80% of what a human being needs from the other person they're with is to be heard, to be validated. That doesn't mean we agree, but it does mean I'm willing to fully listen and hear your point of view. So then I thought to myself, wow, active listening requires that I empty myself of my normal thinking and judging. What does meditation do? The same thing. So that was my light bulb moment, so to speak, where I said, the more we practice active listening, the better meditators we will be, and vice versa. It's a total circle. The more we dedicate ourselves to some short times of meditation in the beginning, then we'll be better listeners. And then the last thought I had was, okay, when I meditate, God is listening to me. And this is a little human, anthropomorphic to think of God as a person with ears, but God never quits listening. So how come I do it different times? So all of a sudden, if we're using a higher role model, we can thank God for always listening to us, which is pretty amazing. And so maybe it would be nice if we did that to other people here on the earth. Okay, so active listening fosters conscious and heartfelt communication. We get that because we're really bonding. Cultivating inner stillness through meditation enables the restless mind to settle and to listen to God. And the Spirit Joanna De Angelis recommends meditation in order to live well and evolve properly. Now I want to thank Kirsten. I'm sorry she's not feeling well and not here tonight, because 2 weeks ago she was the perfect segue into tonight's talk, because she talked about our new favorite Spiritist book that was only published in 2016, and thank you, Yasko, for giving it to me. You don't remember giving it to me? That's okay. So in chapter 11, it's called Life, Challenges and Solutions, the intellectual brain, the emotional brain, meditation and visualization, well-directed thought. And Joanna DeAngelis, who is a spirit, who had different incarnations as a Catholic nun, so that's near and dear to my heart, having gone through lots of Catholic education. She is working through Divaldo Franco in Brazil to this day, and she's really our psychologist. She's our psychiatrist. The books that are coming through from her teachings are really oriented in sound therapy. And she called the mind a restless colt. Okay. So these were cute. This is Mary Engelbrett, if anybody knows the artist. She puts out calendars every year. That's where it came from. And then I love this one. Begin within. Like, we're so oriented and we're raised to always be looking out, you know, producing, acting, making. And I'm not saying that's not wonderful, but we need to balance that by going within and then being comfortable with going within, because the journey will be different at different times, what we discover inside ourselves. Now this is my favorite meditation drawing, and I have 3 helpers in the back who kindly said yes to coloring tonight. So hopefully by the end of this talk we will see how beautiful these are. Can anybody guess what this is constructed from? Yeah, it is okay if you know. Go right ahead.
It looks like a mandala.
Yes, and what? Now we'll just have a quick little interview here. What do mandalas do?
That I might not answer. I mean, what I've seen is just the Tibetan monks doing the mandala. So what they do is they work on the mandala until it's done. And then what they do is, at the end of when it's finished, they totally destroy it.
Right.
And what that means is that's the impermanence of life.
Yes, and with that theme will be picked up at the end tonight when we watch a little movie. Did you?
What she said, so.
Oh, okay. She was saying that her familiarity with this shape of mandala is really the Tibetan sand painting. When the monks come together, they create one. It's a meditation, and at the end, the first time it's shocking to Westerners, they sweep it up. It's a gorgeous piece of art, but it gets swept up and then returned to the ocean or waterway. So what the mandala process is it's a meditating, centering experience for the monks. Now for my 3 helpers, ideally it's a meditating, centering experience for them. Years ago when I was in an elementary school and children, they weren't of the frame of mind to listen to the teacher, so they needed to spend some time in another place. Rather than just letting them sit, this very enlightened principal I worked with gave them a mandala to color, thinking that that experience would calm the mind, still the emotions, and they'd be better able to go back to class. So I'm going to do a little talking, and I'm happy if you get lost in this drawing, because it is a centering exercise, especially if you're comfortable looking more towards the center. It can really help you relax. So I'm just going to give you a few quotes here that I really liked. You could pretend you were opening up spiritual fortune cookies, or maybe reading the tea bags on some of those herbal teas. When we listen with compassion, we transform relationships. We all need to work on creating more empathy bonds, and that was just spoken by Joe Biden in a commencement speech. In the midst of movement and chaos, keep stillness inside of you, Deepak Chopra. And then meditation is a way to acquaint oneself with a new way of seeing, and that's Matthew Richard. who is my one of my meditation teachers when I went to Bhutan this fall, and he is exceptional, and I will tell you a little more about him. So just to summarize where we are with meditation, there are two main pillars in spiritual practice, it seems to me. One is prayer, and one is meditation. In prayer, we are praising, thanking, asking. And then in meditation, we are learning to calm and listen. So it seems to me they balance each other really well. And just to go along with this beautiful wheel, a lot of you may be familiar with Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now. This is what he would say looking at this wheel. I am not my thoughts, emotions, sense perceptions, nor experiences. I am not the content of my life, I am life. I am the space in which all things happen. I am consciousness, I am the now, I am. So that's my clue. This wheel is constructed of I ams. Can you see it? Isn't that amazing? Good, I like the amazement, that's good. I mean, in the beginning, you don't see that. It's almost like an optical trip. But the I am is really who we all are. And there is an exercise we do in psychology where you just start writing and you say, I am a woman, I am a wife, I am a mother, I am a daughter, I am a politician, I am a mathematician. And you keep going until you run out of names for yourself. And where do you land? In the eternal now. The I am. I get so excited with this.
This was just transcend modern days.
Yeah, but we need
a lot of churches like 10th century, 4th century, even virtual man for Da Vinci, which is similar in shape without extras. But
it's
somebody just put I am, maybe 20 years ago or less.
But isn't that exciting that we moved from Da Vinci to the child in time out?
Yeah.
And I think you were reading my mind, because the very next thing I say is how old meditation is. It dates back to the Greek monks in the Middle Ages who knew about concentration and meditation practices. And they also knew about breathing and how to just watch the breath. So we know this is not new material. And then in the Catholic tradition, we have mystic saints. And I know they're in all religions, but I know Catholicism the best. Saint Teresa, Saint Francis of Assisi, and then Saint Ignatius Loyola constructed spiritual exercises. And one of his, it's interesting because it is a meditative practice. It's called Review of the Day. You started the last thing you did before you got into bed, and you back yourself all the way up to the first thing you did. And then you do that with compassion, no judgment. But it gives you a chance to just run through the day and learn from it. There are three main types of meditation, and this is coming out of the Buddhist tradition, and I brought my little finger puppet tonight because we have to thank the Buddhist philosophy and religion for being, thank you, for being our teachers in terms of meditative practices. And they classify them into three types. The first is focused attention, which I hope we're all practicing now. Good. The next one is mindfulness practices, which have become better known. They've been on the cover of Time, and as Daniel has sent the Spiritist members a link, Anderson Cooper did a wonderful interview on 60 Minutes explaining his experience in a mindfulness meditation weekend in California. So I do recommend you look that one up. It's very good. And then the last type, focused attention, mindfulness, the last one is loving kindness and compassion meditation. So I'm not organizing it as to whether there's music or mantras or words or no words. They're just the three different types of meditation. And what Matthew Richard just taught us on our retreat was the loving kindness and the compassion leading to altruism affects the brain the deepest, which I was really interested to learn. All types of meditation are enhancing the brain positively, but it seems this concentration on the loving kindness towards others is really deepening people's ability to stay compassionate and be there as a resource for others. Now, just a quick history, and I need to read because these names are hard to pronounce. I must say that my generation, the boomers, in this country for sure, were the spiritual explorers. What happened in the 60s and 70s were a lot of spiritual teachers were coming to this country for the first time. We were being introduced to practices that were in India for centuries. And I'm not sure how many of you have heard of these people or seen them in some type of video, but one was excuse me, all the people that speak Tibetan, Shagyam Trungpa. And he started in Boulder, Colorado, the first Buddhist college called Naropa Institute. And one of his teachers, who's my age, was another one of my teachers in Bhutan. She was among that original group in the 70s who sat with him. And what she told us, this was interesting, he said, given the state of the young American's mind at the time, it took him 5 years to get them grounded enough to sit in meditation. So that makes us all calm down because we cannot be perfectionists when it comes to learning meditation. And then Yogananda came over and he started the Self-Realization Fellowship. I don't know how many of you saw the movie Awake. That's wonderful. And he was a bridge because he was bringing Christ into Eastern traditions. And of course he had prayer and meditation. Muktananda was another one. He was up in White Plains, New York. And for those of you that are familiar with spiritual intelligence, the pineal gland, the third eye, he had some way of opening up the third eye a little bit by his intentionality and touching you with a feather. I didn't go, but friends came back and told me. Then Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he started transcendental meditation, and that was a mantra-based meditation because he gave each student the mantra. And I have a friend who's been practicing since the 70s. She still sits for 20 minutes a day and recites her mantra, but she probably doesn't have to recite it too long because I'm sure she just goes into the state of meditation. And then a lot of us know about Edgar Cayce. He has another form of meditation where he uses affirmations a lot because we know with all the positive sentences, we are opening up and changing the brain. And then if we get down to the boomers again, we were going abroad and studying in monasteries. And the best example was Dr. Jack Kornfield, who's a psychologist. He came back and started Insight Meditation, centers in Boston and out at Spirit Rock in California. Along with Dr. Tara Brach, and some of you may have read her book, Radical Acceptance or True Refuge. She was a practicing, and she still probably is, psychologist over in Montgomery County. So the two of them really made meditation accessible for us. Taught a very simplified form of it, and people would go on retreats. And that's where I got a lot of training through the years, was going to Tara Brach's intensives. And then another one was Dr. Richard Alpert, who went to India and came back with the name Baba Ram Das. He's still with us. He wrote the book Be Here Now, which we're all still trying to figure out how to be here now. And then I did mention Dr. Matthew Richard. He was born in Paris, went to India, again with this whole migration of young people going to the East, very interested in spirituality, and decided to become a monk. So he went back to Paris, finished off his training in science, and he teaches now around the world. Okay, have we done enough of that? Yes. Okay, and all of you that enjoyed this one, we're now going to go on. Okay, now we're up to active or reflective listening. And I thought this was a great cartoon. This is good for, can you read that in the back? Kind of, sure. I'm sorry, dear, I wasn't listening. Could you repeat what you've said since we've been married? And right here at the end, the author, he retired recently. He was a cartoonist for the New Yorker, and he put his best cartoons in the New York Times. The punchline is an exaggeration, but there's also a deeper truth relating to how much you actually listen to the people you're with. And only you can answer that question. But in this book, 100 Questions from My Child, that was written by Deepak Chopra's daughter, there is a little passage here that I found relevant. This is a little child talking to her mother. And she says, I like it when I feel you hear me, Mommy, when you listen to what I am saying. When you hear what I want, what I'm feeling, and what I need, I feel listened to. When you look like you are not listening to me, I do not feel that you love me. If you love me, you would stop and listen and respond to what I'm saying, so that I feel like you can understand me and my needs, as well as my father's needs and my sister's needs and my brother's needs. Mommy, I do not want to grow up feeling like you didn't stop to hear me, like I didn't count, because then I will not know how to take care of my own needs. I may not ever see what my needs really are. So you never know how powerful this listening technique is with children. They are forming their identity when you stop and reflect. Good. I knew this was a quick audience. They're nodding yes. Okay. I'm going to tell you what active listening is not. A lot of times when something is abstract, it's better to say what it is not. And this comes from Dr. Rosenberg, really important book, Nonviolent Communication. I would say anybody living with somebody else should be reading and rereading this book. It will really up the conversation level with children and partners. Okay, active listening is not advising. I don't have to define these, I'll just list them. It's not one-upping. It is not educating. Now we're going, really? We like to educate. It's not consoling. What? We like to console. So all these, we're not quite sure why it's in the no list. It's not storytelling. It's not, you told me your story, now wait till you hear mine. It's not shutting down with something like, stop crying, cheer up, get over it. It's really not sympathizing, oh, you poor thing. We're really going to get this up to an empathy level, not a sympathy level. It's not interrogating, like you're a district attorney. Well, when did it start? How long has it been going on? What do you plan to do about it? And it's not explaining, and it's not correcting. So, oh my, aren't these things we do routinely? Okay, so now we're really going to have to learn what active listening is. So we're going to go to children for a minute. Carl Rogers was the very best counseling theorist that I met in my training. He developed client-centered therapy. It sounds simple, but it's very deep. That when I sit here with you, I am emptying myself and I am becoming like a mirror. We talk about mirror neurons in the brain, how we feel for other people. So that's my whole world right now, is to be a safe container for the person I'm helping and to empty myself. So I'm going to read just a couple lines of a little boy in a playroom. because this would be the play therapy version. Here's a 10-year-old boy who had to go to the play therapist. Enlightened parents took him because of poor schoolwork and attention-getting rumpuses in class. I haven't used the word rumpus in years. This is an old book. Okay, so the child's name will be Bob. Bob is a universal name for men. So this is Bob. The door opens and Bob literally jumps into the room, making machine gun-like sounds. Rat-tat-tat, rat-tat-tat. I'm Mr. District Attorney. Really mad look on his face. And so the therapist says, you're a very tough character. Then, you bet I am. I'll mow you down. You're so tough, you'll even shoot me down. And you, and you, and you, and you. I mean, he's going to like get everybody. Then the therapist said, everybody's getting shot. And then he said, I'll say they are, all dead now. Now, this child is not going to kill anyone. I just want to put a safety notice on here. This is all imaginary play to let the child release underlying tension. But nobody is shutting it down. He's not going to do anything dangerous. We have safety limits in play therapy. But the child is fully heard. Wouldn't you feel good if somebody is sitting there just mirroring back what you're doing? And it will get resolved. This child will find the way through this. But that's an example of what active listening is. Now let's go on to the next one. All right. I hope we're going to have time. As I told Daniel, I usually prepare things for a couple hours, but I'm going to keep picking the things I think will help us tonight. So this is a summary chart on active listening. I know Daniel taught me about a pointer. Ah, there it is. Okay. So we're going to just stay on active and reflective listening, but I'd like to give the people on the web some homework to do while we briefly just turn to the person next to you and pair up. We're only going to do this for one person talking and one person listening. If we had more time, we'd switch back and forth. So I want you all to practice active or reflective listening. And the main thing you're going to do is just try to figure out the feeling. Like if you're just pretending you just came home from a long day at work and you go, oh, the traffic was horrible. So what I would say, I just picked on you. I would say to you, you really look tired. That was a long ride home. And then if you want to share something else, you will. But I'm going to be just listening for the feeling. I'm going to be looking at your face because you'll give me a clue. You'll probably look tired. And then also you get to sense things. Sometimes you can sense the sound of the voice. The more you do this, the better you get at it. But the whole gift here is to help the other person get in touch with themselves. And this happened to me just this week. I did something not typical of me. I forgot an appointment I had. Very untypical. So the person calls me up because I'm not there. And I say to the person, wow. And then I explain what I've been doing for 2 or 3 days. And then she says to me, you're frazzled. That was a gift. All I had to hear was, you're frazzled. And like, I get it. Now, you know, I was apologetic. I sent her a payment. You know, it was my responsibility. But I'm still thinking about that. Just the simple 2 words of you're frazzled helped me put everything in perspective. I'm also practicing not being upset when I make a mistake. But that was a gift. And the fact that she tuned in, used reflective listening, she could have said a lot of things to me. You can imagine other personalities when the person doesn't show up for an appointment. But she's gracious, and she helped me. So we're going to practice now, but your homework, not that you're going to report back to me, but what I would like you to do is once you feel comfortable with this skill, say to yourself, I really want to practice this again. It sounded nice, but let me think in the coming week of one person, either at the dinner table at night or one person I work with every day, then I'm going to remember to do this. And that's easy. Okay, so, and it doesn't matter who takes a turn with who. If we've got 5 or, we've got, maybe if we even just turn these 2 rows around, it would work, wouldn't it? If you turned around to the person behind you, that would be different. And we've got 3 people coloring, so you can keep and then if you all turn around or somebody fill in. Is that enough pairs? Or Leo, can you help? Yeah. We just need 2 pairs somewhere. Or maybe, yeah, your wife can pair us. Just say 2 sentences, that's all.
Right. Okay, yeah, but
But try to name the feeling she's got. Give it a name. Oh, you're talking, and you're listening.
I was talking and Jeanette was listening.
No, I want you to name her feeling. How was she feeling when she talked to you? Guess. Just make a guess how she was feeling. You're feeling happy, you're feeling sad, you're feeling angry.
Okay, what I said was, I do a lot of driving, I'm so tired.
So it's really hard for you to do a lot of driving. When you're finished, you have no energy. Yeah. Okay. Except they got it in the back, I think, but we can give them to them at the end.
Not 2 minutes.
I can't tell time. I made it too short. Hopefully, and this, I'm sorry if it wasn't a full 2 minutes, but hopefully this gave you a taste for it. And you can keep practicing. There are no right or wrong answers, but if you name feelings, people will feel more heard and understood. And one time, because I did this in play therapy for years and I still do, one child said to me, she was older, "You sure do talk funny." But it all turned out fine in the end because I wasn't here to talk to her about what she was going to wear that night or what happened to. I mean, within the context of what she's saying to me, sure, I'll talk to her. But that was okay. It may sound funny to somebody, like if you're used to having a parent tell you what to do or ask you questions, the first time they stop and say, wow, you're really unsure, you're worried about that test, it's a new role for a parent too. So just, try. And I hope the people that are watching on the web found this a helpful chart to use. Okay, now, I'm going to do a short deep dive now into spiritual philosophy and consciousness research. I realize this is a bit strong, but I wanted to put why we meditate into a bigger framework and introduce you to two American thinkers that you may or may not be familiar with. So hopefully, I'm not going to go real far, but I took these out of the books to give us a matrix to use. Okay. But if I don't find my notes, we're going to get stuck with just the chart. All right, here we go. Ken Wilber is an American philosopher who lives in Boulder, Colorado, and his work is phenomenal. The book I picked up for this talk is called, I'm sure we can't quite see it on the web, but it's called Integral Meditation. He's a very deep thinker, but it makes us feel good when he writes because some of our big questions get organized. So this is what he says about modern culture today. And here we're going to have to use these little levels here. What happens is we all start, and in our Spiritist book club, we are talking a lot about the evolution of man and how we came from like more primitive states, and as we keep on ascending and using our thinking skills and evolving, we're able to understand more and do more. But Ken Wilber says, right now, if you went out in the American population, 40% would be at this level of development, a conventional conformist level. I'm not saying this is bad or good. He's just estimating percentages. Then he said, when you come up to the orange level, 50% of us are walking around using our rational mind for how we live. And then he said 25%, you can see we're ascending here, are at a green level, which are pluralistic, and he also calls it postmodern. Now those three numbers do not add up to 100%. But what it's saying is these numbers, these groups overlap. Because when you're evolving, it's not a straight line. You may show some more advanced skills in one area and the other area still has to catch up. But this is what he describes as the current culture difficulties. He calls it a culture war we're having in the United States right now, because each level is attached to their beliefs. And as we're learning, the truth, even verified by scientists, is not enough if you have a strong belief system. And your belief system comes in from your inherited propensity, your education, and it doesn't mean you have to be in a formal school. We have plenty of people that self-educate through reading. And it also comes by the choices you make, and if you pay attention to the consequences to your actions. This is all contributing into how you perceive the world and how you believe. So he said, if you're still basically at a conventional level, and science has proved, without a doubt, that there is evolution, but if you're still doing a literal interpretation of the Bible, that's not something that you think about. You still stay at a conventional level. When you come up to the rational level, he used scientists as the example of rational thinkers. But we know among some scientists, they don't really believe in God. because of the way they've made discoveries in science, they look on religion as childish. You know, we're figuring it out in a different level. Then we come up here and we think we're getting somewhere. However, the pluralists look on these two and they say neither of those are real. They're just social constructs. It's just that a whole bunch of people got together and started thinking a certain way, and we get that. So we're going to keep evolving. It's probably okay for us to think about ourselves, where we hang in here, but we really want to get up here to a more universal level, which is what Thich Nhat Hanh calls interbeing, which means we are all connected. And one of the great tools to get there is meditation. It's not that prayer won't help, but meditation will really connect you in with the unified field of consciousness. Now we're starting to talk a little bit quantum physics. When we come up here, and I have a hard time reading sideways too, but let me get over here. There's a progression going this way. Of course, we want to go this way too. We want to come out of just egocentric, it's all about me, up to ethnocentric. Now it's about my tribe. Now it's about my country. We want to move up to world-centric because we really are inhabiting one planet. Okay, now I love generosity. You're saying, why is it here? Well, it's here because children are generous by nature. We have examples of like a 1.5-year-old crawling over to pick up a pen somebody dropped because we're hardwired to be generous and to be helpful, not to be competitive. We're really hardwired for this. And another example I saw of a baby comforting was we had a training film in family therapy, and the whole family's sitting there and a baby's crawling around on the floor while everybody's busy learning about themselves. One person gets really upset. The baby crawls over to that person. So it's amazing when you realize how much is going on inside of us. So we hope we're all generous. Then we get up to moral discipline. And right now we're wondering, where did all the morals go? But that's the next important stage. And this is one we're all working on, patience. You know, how do we temper ourselves? How do we not react? How do we take a breath? And we use willpower, but here we get to where I want to go. Meditative concentration. So this is where we sit on this line, and then we get, this is a beyond step, non-dual awareness. Now that sounds funny, but what it is, like right now, you're a man and I'm a woman, and that's good to know because we need to navigate around and we have certain things we do. But if we go back to the I am wheel, we know in our heart we are spirits. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. I just want to concentrate on my spiritual identity. So that is when you get up to non-dual awareness. And where we are developmentally now is let's keep both in mind. We need to know who we are. We have to cross the street. We have to pay our bills. But when we get tripped up by challenges, let's remember I'm not this and they're not that. I am this unifying consciousness at the same time. So that's really holding two levels of thought. Is that easy? No? Can we do it? I think it's refreshing to know it exists. And I guess I didn't lose you because I still get some of this. Good. Okay, now we're going to deep dive again. This person's name is Dr. David Hawkins. Now I know Kirsten in one of her talks referenced his book, Power versus Force. That's the book you start with. But interestingly enough, I took this out of, you'll love this title, Truth versus Falsehood. Isn't it nice? Somebody's working on this outside of the scientists and their controlled lab studies. Oh, is that all slides? It's okay. To explain how this researcher, he's still alive, works, he's an MD and a PhD, he uses, of all things, muscle testing. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with muscle testing. It's called kinesiology, and it just means that when you think a thought, it affects your body, and your muscle will be weaker. If it's a negative down thought, and if it's an uplifting thought, you will be stronger. We used to do this with the kids in my classroom guidance. We would think a thought, we'd check on the strength, and it would go up or down. It was amazing. So the reason he can create these tables, this one mainly, is because he did systematic research. He got hundreds of people. This isn't just a survey. And they all tested. And he made sure that they were the right people, not disturbed with, thoughts that would get in their way. They were clear, good subjects. So this is the part that I just want to share with you. These scales go from 0 to 1,000. 0, we're really almost not here. And what he can do is organize in ascending order how we are, how do I explain this? Vibrationally. So if I walked into a room and somebody is basically in a state of fear, they're vibrating at about 100. Whereas if somebody was in the room with them who's at that moment vibrating from a state of joy, they're at a 540. Hopefully this one's the therapist. So we can see how you can pair up. This is the important line to pay attention to. Right in here, you can see we move from pride to courage. That is huge. So for human beings, we're going to struggle with angers, desires, fears, grief, and they're all going to happen at different times. I'm not saying that we're going to get rid of them, but how we deal with them, how we move through vibrationally, because we're affecting everybody around us. To try to get up here to these qualities, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reasoning, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. So I, again, get excited when somebody organizes the material for me in a ready reference. I can even put it on my refrigerator, talk to myself, and say, well, how was today? What number are you? Now over here, whoops, I did something I didn't want to do. I made everything go away. Now it's back. Good, thank you. I knew my spirit guide had to help me today. This we're not going to spend a lot of time on, but I wanted you to see how things balance out. It's an interesting chart because passivity, a lot of times we're most upset with ourselves when we fail to act. We're sorry when we act the wrong way, but if we could have helped and we sat it out, we're usually not so happy with ourselves. But when passivity gets transformed, it's now acceptance. And we all love acceptance because we're not as upset by things. We still have to do things, but we know we're more peaceful inside. Naive becomes trusting. Low self-esteem becomes humility. Religiosity, that's that real literal one that gets a little too tight and narrow, becomes commitment. So I think it's helpful for us to understand that things just aren't one thing. There's correspondences and there's polarities, and you can take energies and transform them. Okay. This will be the last part of the deep philosophy because I've got to watch my time and I want to give you a meditation experience. Just in case you were wondering, oops, wrong way. Let's go back. Good. These are the numbers that the research pulled up for divinity. You never thought that we would have to put a number. But as you can see in that first section, all the names for God, of course, are going to be at infinity. That's beyond 1,000. And then we come down here to other world religions. It's still infinity. Now we come down here to Christ consciousness, and then Hindu, Purusha, self, Atman, all infinity. Now we come over here. Wow, look at these new numbers. We have angels at 500, archangels at 50,000, the Buddha nature at 1,000, Native American great spirits at 850, Yahweh at 460, Jehovah at 205, and the word God, just using it intellectually with no opening of the heart, no prayer, is a 460. This was the part I thought was really interesting because it's our great spiritual teachers to date. And we have Jesus Christ, Buddha, Krishna, and Zoroaster all at the same, the ultimate 1,000. The 12 apostles are 980. Over here, Moses is 910. Abraham, I know St. Paul is a favorite of a lot of Spiritists with the book that's being read is 745. But this one was the most interesting. Look what happens. Muhammad, at the time he dictates the Quran, is at a 700, and after 38, he's a 130. I don't know his story enough to explain, but we certainly don't want to go that way in life. We'd rather go the other way. That was a mystery. And if we go back way in history, we all got our start with the Greek gods and the pagan gods of Rome, but you can see how far we've come with modern religions and philosophies. Okay, let's go. All right, now I'm going to just kind of move through these and talk about them. These are the two books I would recommend the most. This is Matthew Richard's. This is a easy to read guide. Why meditate? You want to answer that question first. Why would you spend time, 5 to 10 minutes a day in the beginning, trying to sit still and use one of the practices? You could use watching your breath. That's the most popular because you're always breathing. So once you have relaxed yourself, all you're going to do is follow your breath. Now, I know that's not easy. Let's do something right now. This will be short, just to give you an experience. I am going to count slowly from 1 to 8, and I want you just to stay with me, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Be honest. Just raise your hand if you had no other thought but hearing my counting. All right, good. We've got most of the room there. You now have the attention span of a goldfish because they have... Thank you. I needed help. Okay. Because research says that the average goldfish can pay attention for 8 seconds. So you did have an aid. I was counting. So at least you can leave here tonight knowing you can hang out with a goldfish because you won't be distracted. You can do the full 8 seconds. But I wanted to use that one just to encourage you that yes, you can sit on a chair and you can tune into your breathing. Now, one of my meditation teachers gave me a helpful hint. Okay, I'm sitting here breathing and the first thought shows up. We will try to get back to the breath. But if you need an intermediary step, just name what you did. And you can say thinking, or you can say feeling. I don't want you to spend too much time with your intellectual, rational mind, but when I go off track during a sitting session and I say thinking, it's like, then I'm back to my breath again, or feeling. The other thing is your meditation practice will vary from day to day. It will depend on how tired you are, and it will depend on your emotional state at the time you sit for meditation. That's why it's really ideal to try it in the morning, but don't be hard on yourself. The best is just to do it sometime on a consistent basis. And if you please can, write yourself a contract, set up a reward for yourself. Try to do it for 4 to 6 weeks. You can start it and stop it pretty easily, but to make the commitment, you will then get some type of internal result. And I would say then you're in, you've got it. The other one here is The Restful Mind. This is another great book just for current times. It all started with Dr. Benson back in the 1970s. That was when Hans Selye was the first stress researcher. He took a look at the fight or flight response. And since we're not out there living in primitive times, when you want to fight somebody, you've got to check that impulse. But the same anger comes up. Or if you'd rather run away, that same impulse comes up. And some more research is now added in freeze. Some people just freeze. They're not going to fight. They're not going to flee. They're just going to see, I hope it all goes away. Maybe if I close my eyes. And what Dr. Selye showed was that ongoing stress response contributes to disease. We get sick. So Dr. Benson said we need something to do so people can handle their stress better. So he was the first doctor in the 70s at Harvard to teach breathing and muscle relaxation. And with the children, we used to pretend we were robots. We'd get real stiff, and then we'd relax. Or we'd tighten up an arm, we'd relax. That is called progressive relaxation. That's the young kids. For the older kids, we just said an affirmation like, my brain is calm, my face is calm, or my face is relaxed. And you would name each body part until you got through the body. That's called progressive relaxation. So breathing and progressive relaxation. Okay, now I'm going to do this quickly, but this is a test that you do to see if you meditate or not, if you're a good candidate for someone who would benefit. So you answer these questions. Whoops, let's go back. I know how to do that now. Do I suffer from hurry sickness? Do I measure happiness by future gains? Do I constantly compare the present to the past? Do I normally try to deny or push away pain? Do I have unfinished business in my life? Am I often bored with routines and normal day-to-day living? Am I preoccupied with expectations about my future? Do I robotically live my life by going through the same routine day or day without thinking of the options? And does my life seem to be distracted by the same old patterns and behaviors? I mean, most of us are going to answer yes to all or most of these questions. So that means yes, we could all benefit from meditation. Not you, you're the exception. Okay. The neuroscience of meditation, the results, and this, when did this Scientific American come out? I have the thing somewhere. Whoops, let's go back. It's a recent edition, I have it here. But what they had proven at the time I bought this magazine, that yes, regular meditation practice of any of those forms, focused attention, mindfulness, or loving kindness, will reduce anxiety in people. It will increase their physical health. It will reduce the inflammation response. They will not feel physical pain as much. And in one long-term study, when they worked with a group of clinically depressed people, the people had to do two things. They had to do cognitive behavioral therapy because they did need to change their perceptions and how they automatically thought, but they put that together with mindfulness meditation practice. So the two complemented each other and they reduced the relapse rate by 40%. And this is hard science. We know from long-term meditators that it works. We know from studying the brains of like Matthew Richard through neuroimaging, they see the physical changes in the brain, especially in the areas of attention and compassion. But now we want to see how we can apply it routinely to clinical work, okay? Oh, and you saw the child meditating. We know that it's best to start as a child and teach your children. Now in here, I'm just going to tell you what I would have done. This is a great issue of Lion's Roar. We have two major Buddhist-inspired magazines in this country, Tricycle and Lion's Roar. I wish, we had more Barnes and Nobles because I encourage people just to go in and look at the magazine section and see what they like. But this one teaches us how to meditate, the whole issue. And my favorite one is a mindful drinking of a cup of tea or coffee in the morning. Because mindfulness says you can do it any time. You do not have to wait for your dedicated 10 minutes, 20 minutes. In the morning, with the cup of tea or coffee, be present with the cup. Smell it, taste it, and when you're fully engaged with the cup, you're not thinking and planning. You can't do two things at once. And then you savor the taste. And if you really want to be grateful, you can thank all those people that got that cup of coffee to you, from the farmer to the distributor, etc. And if you really want to finish up, you could say, we're all related. Even the cup of tea is related to me. The tea bud is related to me. So mindfulness is wonderful. The New York Times is now running little articles like how to be mindful while mowing your grass. I mean, you want to because you don't want to injure yourself. Or how to be mindful while baking a cake. You can take any activity that you do on a regular basis and say, this is my mindfulness time. I think it's just a matter of us writing sticky notes on the refrigerator to remind us to do this. And Newsweek came out with a beautiful edition. So I like the images here, from the Buddha, centuries old, meditating, to the person now at the beach. And for children, now we're going to finally get to the loving kindness prayer. And you can see already what the clinicians are saying mindfulness does and improves almost everything you can think about. We're not saying it cures autism, we're saying it improves it. It's improving sleep. Like I said, the pain response is lessening. People do better anger management. At some point, the anger isn't so intense. Okay, now this one, I'm going to take the 2 minutes. I would like you to close your eyes so when I say this loving kindness prayer to you, you can really feel it. It's a very gentle prayer. So, may I be well. May I be happy. May I be safe. May my good friend be well. May my good friend be happy. May my good friend be safe. May a neutral person I am picturing be well. May a neutral person I am picturing be happy. May a neutral person I am picturing be safe. May the person I find difficult be well. May the person I find difficult be happy. May the person I find difficult be safe. May all of these people, including me, be well. May all of these people, including me, be happy. May all of these people, including me, be safe. May the entire universe be well. May the entire universe be happy. May the entire universe be safe. Welcome back. Now, doesn't that feel good? Do you see how much you get out of a very short, loving kindness way of thinking? You're taking care of yourself. You're taking care of somebody you like, somebody you have really no opinion on, somebody you find challenging or difficult. I mean, how heart-opening is this loving kindness practice? It's called Tong Ling in Buddhist circles, but it doesn't have to use that name. It is loving kindness, compassion. So if you could just add this in, this is another quick meditative tool. So I guess, Google it or something, or it will be in this talk for you to look at again. Now this, I want to make this easy. So this was in my psychology journal. You can actually put an app in your phone. We're trying to find ways to support a meditative practice. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So in the modern world, this one is called Enzo. That's $2.99. I feel like I'm trying to sell something on QVC now. This one over here is Calm. That's the most expensive. That's for somebody really dedicated who gets the importance and the value. I guess what I'm going to say, you have to examine what you value right now. We do value vacations and we do value going out to dinner. I'm not saying that's wrong, but as soon as you value how much you get from a simple meditative practice, all of a sudden, maybe $99 a year is okay because you're going to really benefit and grow. And then over here, the nice one, the Smiling Mind, is for children and it's free. So parents can put the app in their child's phone and the child can do a meditation break. I thought that was really good. Okay, now I just want to visit our friend Valdo Franco because I would think most Spiritists have used one or both of these meditation guided imageries. And now we're up to a selection of what I chose. And maybe indeed if this was like another hour, we could listen to all the ones I picked out. But we're going to go right to the movie instead. But this first one, the scripture meditations, I met this woman in Minnesota, and she teaches centering prayer. And this is a beautiful excerpt from scripture. And then she has music, and she opens up the way you think about it. Next to it is a meditation experience. This comes from the Edgar Cayce Foundation. There are 3 of these CDs. I just want to keep giving people lots of choices, because what I found is if you pick the same guided imagery and you do it over and over, after a while you're not really hearing it. So to have a series like this that goes from 1 to 2 to 3, you can see how you progress. And I don't want us to forget our friend Tom Kratzley up in Lilydale. His CDs are awesome. He's got 5 of them out now, I think, and I brought along another one with a title, Healing Through Time, Mind, and Matter. These are really powerful CDs. Is anybody here still working with his? But you have some at home, maybe. You could find them? Good. He has another beautiful one called The World Meditation that's perfect for New Year's Eve. And then over here, if you are just using music, Steve Halperin has figured out how to entrain the brain. The brain has certain frequencies, so this music deeply helps to balance your left and right hemisphere. So just by putting it on and sitting, you would be boosting your brain functioning. And I love this one, The Silent Path. A friend gave it to me. As soon as I put it on, it's like an association. I just go. And then the last one, Carolyn Mace. Some of you may be familiar with her. She's a medical intuitive who worked with Norm Shealy, who was the first president of the American Holistic Medical Association. And they would team up at the end of the day, and he would tell her, no names, the types of illnesses he treated, and she would identify where the person was unhealed in some emotional trauma that occurred somewhere in their life. Again, no one's fault. We just keep muscling through life, and we keep kind of burying different things. And as we get more aware and enlightened, we want to go back and use our forgiveness of self and others on a routine basis. But by pulling that information up as a medical intuitive, the person had a whole new healing path. They could take the medical treatments and combine in the meditation and the other practices. So this one is called Meditation Music. So just like Halperin syncs your brain, this one syncs your chakras. And I think we've used the word chakra in here a couple of times now, so we know they're the vital energy centers that start at the base of your spine and go all the way up to the top of your head. Each one's spinning, each one can go out of balance, and this CD can rebalance you. Okay, now finally we're up to Daniel. And 10 more minutes, and we're going to watch a short movie. Now, what you're going to be experiencing is a Buddhist monk from Australia. So we're going to see Buddhist symbols. We're going to see a monk dressed and sitting cross-legged. You don't have to sit cross-legged when you meditate. You can sit in a chair. The only thing you're not supposed to do is lie down, because you know what will happen. You will go to sleep. So you're in a good position now, because you want to be just kind of sitting up and then experiencing what he's going to teach you.
The most common experience for someone meditating for the first time is the realization of how busy the mind is. It's not until we attempt to quieten the mind that we realize there is a continuous arising of thoughts, memories, sounds, physical sensations, and visions. This is what we call the monkey mind. Just like a monkey we may see in the zoo, our mind is continually jumping from one object to the next as each draws its attention. The success of a meditation session depends on many factors, including your state of mind before the meditation, levels of stress, physical tiredness. As a result, some sessions are good and some not so good. Don't expect too much, especially to begin with. The more practice, the better the sessions will be. But even experienced meditators have bad days. Be patient, be gentle on yourself. While meditation can be practiced almost anywhere, and you don't need much to practice, essentially a cushion or chair and a small table to rest a book on would be enough. It's helpful to dedicate a room or space at home for the purpose. Your meditation space should be comfortable, clean, tidy, and as quiet and isolated from distractions as best you can. If you wish to create a more elaborate environment with inspirational objects and pictures, they can be very helpful, but don't get too distracted from the point of the exercise, meditation. In Tibetan, the word for meditation has to do with familiarization. Through meditation, you can familiarize your mind with beneficial states and thoughts. Thoughts such as assisting others, compassion, treating others equally, and morality. You can also begin to realize that thoughts such as hatred, anger, greed, and jealousy are not only destructive to the people that you direct them to, but also to yourself. They can be a source of much suffering and unhappiness that you might be experiencing. The first step in the session is to check your posture. The main concern is to be comfortable, to avoid moving around or being distracted by discomfort, but not too relaxed that you fall asleep or experience dullness. Cross your legs if sitting on a cushion. Sitting on a chair is fine. With your palms facing upwards, place your right hand on top of your left, with the tips of your thumbs gently touching. Hands resting in your lap. Hold your back comfortably straight. Not so rigid that you experience discomfort or tension during the session. Relax your jaw and allow your tongue to rest behind your front top teeth. Tilt your head slightly forward. Your eyes may be closed, although this can increase the chance of falling asleep. If you have your eyes open, have them only slightly open, gazing downwards without focusing. Hold your shoulders level and keep your elbows slightly away from your body. Let's try a simple meditation. By placing your thought on the breath, it's possible to quieten or still the monkey mind and improve concentration. The aim is to become aware of the breath as it enters and leaves your body by concentrating on the rise and fall of the abdomen or the sensation of the breath passing through your lips or nostrils. With the exhalation of each breath, count 1, then 2, then 3, etc. Set yourself an achievable target of, say, 7 to begin with, and when sensations of quietness, stillness, and peace eventually occur, hold them as best you can and experience them as fully as possible. If you become distracted or lose that sensation, return to the breath. Now, you may be surprised how difficult this is to do without being distracted. Even a small number of breaths can sometimes be a challenge. It depends on your state of mind, your health, levels of stress, and tiredness. But let's try. Distractions come in many forms: sounds, visions, physical sensations, pains in the knees, pain in the back, and itches, happy memories, unhappy memories, memories of people and events that you've not thought about for ages. If you find you're distracted easily, don't get angry or frustrated. This is the nature of the monkey mind, and an awareness of this nature is actually a sign of progress. The best way to handle these distractions is to not indulge them or attempt to repel them. As they arise in the mind, they will also disappear of their own accord. Simply acknowledge them and return the thought to the breath and resume counting. As a patient mother will gently bring a curious crawling baby back onto the blanket, we should be the same with our mind when it wanders. Patiently and gently bring it back to the breath, understanding that wandering or distraction is part of its current nature. While effort is important, it's possible to try too hard to meditate. Meditation should be an enjoyable, inspiring experience. And ideally, you should be looking forward to the next meditation session and not feeling that it's a chore, finding reasons to avoid it. If you find yourself becoming frustrated at an apparent lack of success, it may be best to take a break, go for a walk, get some fresh air, maybe try later in the day. Relive the day so far, from the moment you woke up to the present, and consider each action you carried out, not just the big, more significant actions, but all the smaller ones as well. Possibly the first action had to do with staying in bed for just 5 more minutes, or the desire to get to the kitchen for breakfast. Maybe there was a disturbing thought of things that had to be done at work, or a pleasant thought of having lunch with a friend. What other thoughts and actions occurred as the day progressed? Impatience or even anger when you had to wait in a queue at the bank. Satisfied when you drove into the last parking space before someone else. Downhearted when you realized you had to spend the day with someone you did not like. Satisfied when your boss praised you in front of others. If we're honest with ourselves, we'll see that our day is filled with thoughts and actions that are directed at avoiding suffering in its many forms and experiencing happiness. This is a motivation common to all, the wish to experience happiness and to avoid suffering. There is, of course, no problem with possessions, wealth, a comfortable lifestyle. The real problem is in our mind, with the underlying belief that these things will make us truly happy forever. Think again of a previous object of desire, a relationship, or even a situation. If at the time we knew what we know now, that they were impermanent, had no chance of living up to our expectations, were not going to last forever, would we have suffered so much? Would we have placed such importance on them? Would we have become so overwhelmed by the thought of having to have them or having to avoid them, otherwise our life would be ruined? Now finish the meditation by considering ways in which you may be able to understand the impermanent nature of phenomena in your life. Appreciating them in a more rational way can prevent the extremes of attachment and desire or aversion and anger. Consider the peace and contentment that this will create in your mind.
And thank you. And hopefully you found the monk's discourse on meditation helpful, and you're okay about having a monkey mind. and you're okay with the steps involved in learning how to meditate and are willing to try. And before I say goodbye, I would like to share with you all the wonderful artwork that came from our students in the back row. Could you help me hold these up? You want to help me too? Chris is responsible for all the papers on your seat when you came in. We can clap for them. So all you adults can color too. It's not just limited to younger people. But we can see that the exercise is meditative, and if you just kept this around, you could take a break and look into it and calm down. So thank you again. Let's go back.
Thank you.
I guess get these back to the owner so they can stay calm. Sit down. I can, it's up to you, because I know we'll probably do a guided imagery, right? Instead of passes, we're going to do a group one. Okay, I can take questions.
So thank you again, Paula, for all of this beautiful work. It's a good reminder for all of us. 2017, it's running at a speed of 2017 miles per second, right, in our daily lives. And we insist of not stopping and thinking about these quality works and quality practices that we have out there being proved by science. If we have the really rational mind, the scientific mind, here it is. We brought that, this to our, Paula brought to ourselves here the benefits of it. Even science is looking at it and saying, look, it's important. So utilize it in our daily lives. And Spiritism is there to help as well. Some people like, I don't want to go to this person, that person, but there are many others out there. Like you said, if you go to Barnes and Nobles, right? There are tons of material. I recently looked for something for someone in school where we would have to prepare, and I was really amazed of the number of information that is out there. And it was in Barnes and Noble. We should be really saying like, it's not a Barnes and Noble, but yes, there are many other options.
Let me add in one thing quickly. I forgot, but it's right on topic. You can go to soundstrue.com, or you can come up afterwards and look at this, and you can get a free download, the practice of mindfulness and meditation music. So now we're free, just like the app for children. And the other thing is that there is a meditation teacher locally, if anybody wants to go and join a group. And it's the woman who used to run Breathe Books, who's now located more out in the Owings Mills area. But she is currently holding meditation classes in Hamden, Beth El Congregation, and Har Sinai Congregation. So there were more options to learn.
Thank you. So we would like to open for about 5 minutes of questions. If you would like to make a comment or have a question, or if you have a question, anything that you would like Paula to clarify, and then we will have our meditation moment, if we can say it that way too, or guided moment. Anyone? Yasko.
Hi, that was good. I always confess to you, I have problems when you say to meditate. But I can see this constructing a mandala or coloring something geometrical and has some circle, symmetry. How this compare in terms of result? Doing this versus meditation, those 3 types of meditation that you said in terms of reach for my mindfulness and have the benefit in my mental, physical well-being.
I won't answer like a scientist. I'll just answer from my own experience and just knowledge. They will all be beneficial. And we really need to start with something we feel okay about. That's why the coloring in. But that has some backup in the Eastern traditions. That circle, as you go into the center, if you gaze into it, will be working as meditation, just like repeating a mantra will be focusing the brain. So that's why I found it easy to start with the guided imagery tape, then move to the music, and then to silence. But all of them are going to help. And the loving kindness prayer, according to Matthew Richard, even makes the biggest imprint on the brain when you fully embody it. So this is the tricky part. It's not an intellectual recitation of the words. It's a feeling sense, and you can tell that you're lighting up every cell in your body. So it's hard to explain, it's better to experience. I think that's why having the monk have us do just a minute or so of watching our breath. The only way anything will shift is that you feel it. But I would still rather we do something than not try anything. And again, I'm amazed in myself how I can look back on 40 years ago. And I'm sure a lot of things contribute to how we grow and develop, but meditation is a major tool. So I just hope this is inspirational and taking away fears, because you have to have a restless monkey mind. That's how you're created. And yet we know Matthew Richard can go into an MRI tube, lie in it for 3 to 4 hours while they study his brain and come out. A lot of us wouldn't even go into the MRI tube. We're too claustrophobic. And he comes out saying, thank you for more time to meditate.
Thank you, Paula. Anyone else?
This isn't a question as much as just making a comment. I've been meditating, I guess, 25 years, and I know he said to sit in a chair, but usually for me, just to set the tone for the day before I even get out of bed, I meditate, and that just gets me really relaxed. It stops the monkey mind, because I've got a big-time monkey mind. So that kind of calms me down for the day and centers me. And also, like you said, for kids, adults now are really coloring, and that just helps
I
to
didn't show my coloring book.
yeah, that just helps to calm us down and I think help us concentrate. So thank you so much for your talk. It was very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paula,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Yep.